you.
Just Carolina, I will just ask you if you can somehow boost your volume a little bit without changing anything else. Your picture is fine, just maybe boost the volume a little. So let me now present expressions, equations, and functions, strategies in clinical philosophy. Carolina Beaini is an APPA certified practitioner and a pioneer of clinical philosophy in Lebanon, where she formerly resided. Now she's moved to actually to Halifax. So Atlantic Canada has gained. Lebanon's loss is Canada's gain, and Atlantic Canada is indeed a very nice region. It's not exactly the Bay of Fundy is not exactly the Mediterranean, but I'm sure you enjoy being near the ocean in any case. So Carolina, please regale us with your presentation, and we'll ask you to speak for about 45 minutes and leave 15 minutes for discussion, if that's possible. Okay?
Yes, sure.
Thank you so
I
much.
would like, but I would like to share my screen, please, because my
Yes,
presentation
I'll make
contains.
you co-host, but I'm going to ask you to still boost your volume because it's still soft. Okay, you're now a co-host. You should be able to share your screen.
So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I would like to talk today about strategies in clinical philosophy and how we can move from expressions to equations and functions uh, uh, that can prepare the counselee, the client, to real functions. Okay, so I will give two examples of client cases that shows perseverance in work and continuity to reach maturity of thinking and maintenance in daily life. So in fact, the link present in our brain between those three notions let us build a certain methodology that can be used in our consultation. This kind of methodology is kindly related to my field, the hermeneutics, which was a basic ground for me to deeply go in the concept of clinical philosophy. By looking to the train of our reasoning, we can observe and notice that our a priorism can lead us to posteriorize in a logical way an approach that can maintain our well-being. So in fact, after a heavy experience in practical philosophy, I noticed that each consultation has its own journey, and I mean it journey. So it begins by an expression which is very helpful to open widely the door of consultations for those in need between 5 and 95 years old. And I had fruitful sessions with clients between those ages. During every consultation, I noted that there is known and unknown values that lead to look for a logical understanding, which is the necessary clue to transform unknown to known and reach clarity of thinking. Now we will see that its expression can be transformed in equation. Maybe you will say, why to complicate things? This is what it is. What's the need to make equation? So it's in fact a way helping methodically the counselor to add clarity to the counselee. Why? Because naturally our brain is ready to read equations. And because simple calculations are clues sometimes for many solutions. How? It's like it is easy to understand A plus B equals C, which is very clear. And to understand if A equal B and B equal C, it means A equal C. So instead of every variable, thoughts and actions take place. So every kind of problems should be mentioned as variable. Every client can have many variables. And how we can deal with this system, and when once someone who is the counselor here decide to look for solution, and once we counselors are ready to capture the variables and catalyze them to find different perspectives and let the counselee look forward with renewal potential of thinking, which is the aim. So based on that, each equation qualifies a real function after perceiving quantity and quality of possibilities for each variable. So in a way that each equation allows structural understanding to know what are the variables in every situation. How can we precise what do we want after a clear observation, and how to focus on each variable to move from the unknown mode to a known and defined mode, pushing to act. So understanding creates motivation for applicable functions. And functions are diversified in different directions, dealing with a clear mind. Every function could have many results when handled with perseverance and continuity. Functions will maintain activities and more results that could be adapted with all kinds of variables in a large margin of situation. When we look at the results, we can perceive that each result reached after a function modifies the maturity of thinking. So the counselee passes automatically from a level to another level. He moves from the ambiguity in expression, the unknown variables, and the passive mode of thinking, which is qualified with chaos, overstress, instability, anxiety, non-productivity, loss of meaning. And after real and perseverant functions, he will pass to the level where we can find observation and attention, more understanding and clarity, clear strategy for each variable in any situation. And this type of schema qualifies mind in order, good habits in mind, and creative strategies and healthy brain. What does function mean? If we look together to a simple meaning in the dictionary, we will see aim, intention, purpose, subroutine, etc. We see acts that add existence, value, and significance. In scientific meaning, it's a kind of relation that maintain a certain way to reach one or more result, more than one result. And in philosophical path, related to the experience, certainly, the procedure that qualifies us to have a mental state depending on the role we have and the goal we are trying to achieve. So by going deeply in the meaning of function, we can understand the link between expression, equation, and function. And to attain that, we rely on math that provide intuitive understanding, which is our a priorism, axiom calculation, number of repetition, and we rely on logic too that provides a greater understanding. And here we can use all kinds of reasoning, deductive, inductive, abductive, critical thinking, analogy, metamorphism. And we rely on those tools to reach logical and safe paths from abstraction modes of talking to reliable and practical mode of thinking, which is related to an a posteriorism function. So we will see together now an analysis of real example of strategies and their maintenance after the consultation. So there is always steps as it is below. Before consultation, there is a need to understand. When the consultations are in process, there is more understanding and more clarity. And after the consultations, after all the sessions, there is creativity and achievement day after day. I will begin with my first example. I will talk about Thomas, 36-year-old. He's an engineer. We will see many points in his own words. He said, I don't need to be engaged. Only adventures are meaningful to me. I can do whatever I want. I cannot complete small acts. I always begin and stop and re-begin with another act. Only my work as engineer attracts me until the end. I always look at the macro without seeing the micro. So by paying attention and making meticulous analysis, we conclude that this schema includes more than one contradiction when looking in the expressions. There is absence of frames that let him be impatient to small achievements. He is searching for short-term pleasures with incapacity to work on long-term vision pleasures. There is an absence of real acts, and there is a jumping over details. There is a high estimation without real efficiency, only where he is obliged to act in a clear, defined frame, which is the engineering. He feels stable, and impulsive and quick reactions without any continuity. So to present now how the expression can be transformed an equation in our mind. So I will use one expression from his words. So if we see now, I can do whatever I want with his own words. We can see that with the I, the subject defines himself. With the can, he is certifying the capacity. The do is showing limited human potential. With whatever, there is an unlimited estimation of potential. And with the I want, there is a certifying for the will. So if we want now to cut this expression, we will see that if I can do is symbolized by a capital A and is describing the non-infinity, the limited potential, and if the whatever is symbolized by the small b and is describing the unlimited potential, and the I want is symbolized by the small c and is describing the limited potential too, there is a contradiction. So the limited cannot be the value of the unlimited and the limited too. So with this client, I used the strategy of the attentive builder. Understanding this contradiction in the way of thinking is major to improve the need of changing and becoming stable. So for him, we went step after step, and he began to build attentively a new perspective to reach his aim of stability. So he used the I want to decide and choose and to approve real acts. He tried to look for micro things and real small actions in daily life. He looked for minimum expectation and small achievements to decrease the contradiction between high expectations and non-efficiency. He took this term of trial as an adventure to explore the full potential and the real capacity to be stable. And he maintained a kind of repetition for more than 3 weeks to accept the capacity of changing and link his brain to the new way of thinking and improvement produced by the mind. So he built new habits of mind, and it was so positive with him to stimulate his brain. My second example is about Jennifer, a young lady, 28 year old mother of 3 kids. So she's suffering from anxiety. She is taking Prozac since the age of 18. She never felt good. She is always feeling chaos in her mind. She cannot achieve one whole task without getting in 3 tasks or more in the same time without completion. The notion of time doesn't exist in her mind. A salad for 2 persons could take 1 hour to get ready. She cannot be punctual in spite of her efforts to be. She describes her state by saying, it's just always cloudy in my brain. I cannot focus. She cannot accept that her parents will die one day. She likes to do crafts so much, and she draws her anxiety in the next drawing. So if we look together to this drawing, we could see that is totally describing the schema of Jennifer. The chaos is designed by a cloud, and a cloud could never be controlled in a defined time. Her non-achievement in work lets her feel clouds everywhere and lets her suffer from non-concentration. So the notion of time is absent, certainly, because it is not related to a clear mind. Most of the time, Jennifer runs away to bed. She cannot handle clouds, and she is always overwhelmed. After a real analysis, and after looking for the way she expresses herself and defining the dysfunction with more than one variable, Jennifer decides to look forward and make efforts to be engaged in the timeline strategy. The timeline strategy can be understood within the equation where each variable is known as a function of time. So the x is Jennifer. The activity of Jennifer is the A of x. The C of A is the concentration on the activity, and the T in the equation is the limited time to accomplish all those functions she might be able to do. So in this timeline points of achievement, we can see how she changed from session to session. From the first session, Jennifer was moving forward, and every session allowed her to think with more clarity and bring attention to her well-being. She begins to incorporate time and organization in her daily plan of achievements. After 4 sessions, her drawing became full of qualified circles. So each drawing, each circle defines a function accomplished with full of concentration in a limited time. So after 3 months of deep deviation, Jennifer was fully punctual, full of energy, and full of life. I asked her to draw her anxiety again. She focused more than 2 minutes and said, I cannot find it. I cannot see it. I cannot feel it. So I added, what do you feel after you renew your thoughts and you activate your logic thinking? She took the digital pen from me and she drew the next drawing. She said, I cannot find the way to feel my anxiety. I can see it far, so far behind my mind? Can I maintain the mode of thinking and clarity and be sure not to be down anymore? And certainly my answer was certainly, because from now on, you will have your own tools. And this is the important points. You will have your own tools to keep your mind refreshed, even with another variables and in different situations. You will always have the capacity to learn new strategies. So those were two examples from hundreds where many strategies were showing excellent results depending on many tools that lead to a long-term maintenance with renewal method of thinking. I will cite some of my own strategies, and I hope to present them in examples, real examples in different presentations in the future. So I have here, for example, strategy of the judge, strategy of balance, strategy of checking points, strategy of priorities, strategy of the inventor's gap, and the strategy of the fake monsters. And each one of those strategies describe a case. Talk about one situation, maybe with one variable, maybe with more variable. And now I would like to say that as philosophers, we have all the premises to build daily strategies within the huge need for philosophical reasoning and philosophical counseling. And thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Carolina. That is really interesting. And I also have to say, it strikes me at least as a rather interesting departure from the presentation you gave us in New York a couple of years ago. If I'm not mistaken, you did your PhD at the Sorbonne. And it very deeply embedded, of course, in continental philosophy and hermeneutics. And today you're coming to us with what strikes me as very Platonic and Kantian, a kind of a Meno, recreation that we have the innate capacity to reason mathematically, and also Kant's assertion that our conceptual framework already has mathematics embedded in it. So this is very fascinating. On your own, maybe you can also tell us a few words about your own journey from these two very different modes of counseling, the hermeneutic continental to this very analytic rational mode. How did that occur? If you could just give us a short answer to that, and then I will throw the floor open. Patricia already has her hand up. Okay, so please explain this. This is your own transformation. It's fascinating.
Yeah, thank you, Lou. I would like to say